Hey Guy, tonight we are going to slip back in time, not just a few years, but centuries, to a place of cobblestone streets, flickering candlelight, and the quiet, persistent hum of secrets. You are standing in the heart of 14th century Paris, the air thick with the smell of wood smoke, baking bread, and something vaguely unpleasant you'd rather not identify. It's a world without electricity, without the internet, where knowledge is a treasure locked away in heavy, hand-scribed books. And you, a humble bookseller, are about to stumble upon the greatest secret of them all, the key to eternal life. This is a journey of obsession, of cryptic symbols, and of a quiet faith that the universe holds a magic just waiting to be unlocked. To be honest, given the state of 14th century medicine and sanitation, you probably wouldn't survive this. So before you get too comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what we do here. We also love to see how far our stories travel, so feel free to post your city and what time it is for you in the comments below. Now, dim your lights, maybe turn on a fan for some gentle white noise, and let's settle in for tonight's journey. You are Mr.LieFlow, and you are dreaming. It's the same dream you've had twice before, a vision so vivid, it feels more real than your waking hours spent copying texts in your small Parisian shop on the Rue des Écrivains. In the dream, the world around you is muted, a soft focus gray, but one figure stands out in brilliant, impossible color, an angel. He doesn't speak, not with a voice you can hear, but his message arrives in your mind, clear as a bell. He holds a book. It's not large, but it possesses a weight that seems to bend the very air around it. The cover is made of hammered copper, intricately engraved with symbols and letters you don't recognize. The angel extends the book towards you, his expression one of serene patience. Look well at this book, Nicholas. The thought echoes in your skull. Asterisk, you will not understand anything in it, but one day you will see in it that which no other man will be able to see. Asterisk, the dream always ends the same way. You reach for the book, your fingers tingling with a mixture of fear and an electric, all-consuming curiosity. And just as your skin is about to brush against the cool copper, you wake up, your heart pounding a frantic rhythm against your ribs, the scent of ozone and old parchment still lingering in your nostrils. You sit up in your bed, the coarse linen sheet scratching against your skin. Your wife, Peril, stirs beside you but doesn't wake. The sounds of early morning Paris are beginning to filter through the wooden shutters. The distant clang of a blacksmith's hammer, the rumble of a cart over uneven stones. You swing your legs over the side of the bed. People in your time often sleep propped up on a mountain of bolsters and pillows. It's a common belief that lying flat is bad for the humors, inviting sickness. You, however, find it just gives you a stiff neck. You run a hand through your thinning hair, the dream clinging to you like a shroud. It felt so real. The book, you can still picture every detail. This is the life of a scrivener and bookseller in Paris in the year 1357. You spend your days painstakingly copying manuscripts by hand for the wealthy students and clerics of the nearby University of Paris, a renowned center of European thought. It's a respectable trade, but not a lucrative one. You and Peril live a modest, devout life. There is no room for angels or magical books in your reality. And yet, the dream gnaws at you. You go about your day, selling a book of hours to a nobleman, haggling over the price of vellum with a supplier, the smell of the nearby tanneries a constant, pungent companion. But your mind is elsewhere. You are replaying the angel's words, tracing the shape of the cryptic symbols in your mind's eye. Was it a message from God? A temptation from the devil? Or simply the result of some bad cheese you ate before bed? Historians still debate whether Flamel was truly just a humble scribe, or if his book-copying business was a front for more esoteric pursuits even before the dream. Some suggest his position gave him access to rare and forbidden texts, planting the seeds of alchemy in his mind long before his fated encounter. You, however, feel only confusion. You are a man of faith, a good Christian. You are not a magician or a sorcerer. You are a bookseller. You tell yourself to forget it. It was just a dream. A silly, meaningless dream. But as you close up your shop for the night, pulling the heavy wooden door shut, you can't shake the feeling that something has fundamentally shifted, that a door has been opened in your quiet, orderly life, and you have no idea what might be waiting on the other side. You just hope it doesn't expect you to file paperwork. The bureaucracy in Paris is already a nightmare. The dream fades from the forefront of your mind over the next few weeks, receding into the background noise of your daily life. You have orders to fill, rents to pay, and a leaky roof that needs patching before the autumn rains begin. Peril, ever practical, keeps you grounded. The strange, angelic vision becomes a curious memory, a story you might one day tell your grandchildren, if you are ever blessed with any. Then, one unremarkable afternoon, everything changes. The bell above your shop door jingles, announcing a customer. You look up from the text you are meticulously copying a treatise on Aristotle and see a man you've never seen before. He is cloaked, which isn't unusual, but he carries himself with an air of desperation, his eyes darting around your small, cluttered shop as if he expects the city guard to burst in at any moment. He approaches your counter, his movements furtive, and from beneath his cloak, he produces a book. Your breath catches in your throat. It is impossible. It cannot be. And yet, there it is. The hammered copper binding, shimmering dully in the light, filtering through your shop's single grimy window. The strange, alien engravings of serpents and suns. The unreadable script along the edges. It is the book from your dream. The stranger pushes it across the counter towards you. He needs money, he says, his voice a low, raspy whisper. He is fleeing the city, or perhaps the country, and must sell his possessions. He tells you he doesn't know what the book is, only that it is very old and seems valuable. He asks for 2 florins. It's not a king's ransom, but it is a significant sum for you. It's enough to buy food for a month, maybe more. You hesitate, your mind reeling. This is madness. A coincidence of such magnitude that it strains the very fabric of belief. Your hand trembles as you reach out and touch the cover. It's cool and solid beneath your fingertips. It is real. You look from the book to the man. His face is shrouded in shadow, his story vague. Is he a thief? A scholar who has fallen on hard times? Or something else entirely? Historians still debate whether the stranger was a real person or a narrative flourish. Flamel added later to give his story a more faded quality. In an age of faith and superstition, attributing a discovery to divine or mysterious intervention gave it an authority it might otherwise lack. It's the medieval equivalent of saying, an anonymous source tipped you off. But in this moment, all you feel is the pull of destiny, a force as undeniable as gravity. You think of the angel as words. One day you will see in it that which no other man will be able to see. This is not a choice. It is a summons. You pay the man his 2 florins. He snatches the coins, gives a curt, nervous nod, and vanishes back into the bustling Parisian street, leaving you alone with the impossible object sitting on your counter. You feel like you've just bought a lottery ticket from a time traveler. The odds are absurd, but the potential payoff is unimaginable. You wait until Perronel is asleep that night before you truly examine your purchase. You light a single tallow candle, its flame casting long, dancing shadows across the room. You carry the book to your small wooden table, its weight a reassuring presence in your hands. You run your fingers over the cover again. The engravings are of figures you don't recognize. A desert landscape with serpents swallowing suns, a king with a sword drawn, a flowering crucifix. It feels ancient, powerful. With a sense of reverence, you open it. The pages are not parchment or vellum, as you expected. They are made of some kind of thin, smooth bark, bound together in sections. The text is written with an iron pen in a language that is utterly alien to you. It is not Latin, Greek, or Hebrew. It is a series of elegant, flowing symbols that seem to mock your ignorance. Common knowledge holds that book production in the 14th century was a slow, arduous process done by hand on prepared animal skin, a craft you know intimately. This book, with its strange materials and perfect, uniform script, feels like it was made by another kind of being entirely. On the first page, in gold leaf, are the words, Abraham the Jew, prince, priest, Levite, astrologer, and philosopher *. You stare at the inscription, a shiver running down your spine. This is no ordinary book. This is a key. And for the first time in your life, you, *LieFlow, a simple man of ink and paper, feel the terrifying, exhilarating weight of a great and secret purpose settling upon your shoulders. You've just acquired the most important and indecipherable book in the world, and there's no unboxing video on YouTube to help you. 21 years. For 21 years, the Book of Abraham the Jew is your silent companion, your obsession, your greatest frustration. You keep it hidden, of course. In an age where the Inquisition is a very real and terrifying power, owning such a text is not just heretical. It's a death sentence. You show it only to Peril, your partner in all things, whose quiet belief in you is the bedrock upon which you build this strange new life. During the day, you are still Nicholas the Scrivener. You copy psalms, translate legal documents, and sell popular romances to the ladies of the court. But at night, by the flickering light of a precious candle, you become a different man. You become a decoder, a seeker, a proto-scientist poring over the book's cryptic pages. You copy its symbols, trying to find patterns. You redraw its bizarre illustrations, hoping their meaning will reveal itself through the act of replication. The illustrations are as baffling as the text. There are 21 pages of them, grouped in sets of 7. The 4th and 5th pages of each set are blank, which you find endlessly maddening. Is the information missing, or is the blankness itself the message? It's like getting a new piece of IKEA furniture with half the instructions intentionally left out. The images that are there are a fever dream of esoteric symbolism. You see a young man with winged ankles, a caduceus in his hand, representing Mercury. You see 2 dragons, one winged and one not, locked in combat in a black field, a representation of the volatile and the fixed, the core principles of alchemy. There are diagrams of strange glass vessels, beakers, and retorts. All part of a great furnace you learn is called an aphanor, the alchemist's sacred oven. You see a king being devoured by a serpent, a baby being bathed in its own blood, a man rising from a tomb. It's all deeply allegorical, a visual language of transformation that speaks of death and rebirth, putrefaction and purification. You try to find someone, anyone, who can help you. You discreetly show copies of the symbols to the learned scholars and alchemists who frequent the university district of Paris. They are intrigued, but no one recognizes the script. They offer theories, each more convoluted than the last. One suggests it's a form of ancient Chaldean. Another is convinced it's a lost Atlantean dialect. Most of them try to sell you their own elixirs and powders, promising secrets they clearly don't possess. You grow weary of the charlatans and the well-meaning but useless academics. You realize that you are on your own. This quest belongs to you and Peril alone. Historians still debate whether Flamel's 21 years was a literal time frame or a symbolic number, as both 3 and 7, which multiplied to 21, held immense mystical significance in numerology and alchemy. Perhaps it was his way of saying he underwent a long, spiritually significant period of study, not a precise 2-decade slog. For you, however, it feels very literal. It is 21 years of watching the lines deepen around your eyes, in the reflection of a polished pewter plate, of seeing your hair turn from brown to gray. Your hands, once steady enough to produce the most delicate calligraphy, now have a slight tremor. The ink you use, a common concoction of oak galls, iron sulfate, and a binder called gum arabic, is famously corrosive. You've then noticed that some of your older manuscripts have pages where the ink has literally eaten through the parchment over the decades. Strange tidbit of your trade that now feels like a metaphor for your own quest. The book is consuming you, slowly, page by page. Yet, you never lose hope. Your Catholic faith, rather than conflicting with this strange pursuit, seems to fuel it. You see the alchemical process, the magnum opus, or great work, not as a way to simply get rich, but as a spiritual allegory for the purification of the human soul. The goal isn't just to turn lead into gold, but to transform the base, sinful self into a state of spiritual perfection. The Philosopher's Stone, the legendary substance that can achieve this, is not just a chemical catalyst, but a key to divine grace. It's a far cry from what your local priest preaches on Sunday, but in the quiet of your study, it makes a profound, intuitive sense. After 2 decades of dead ends, you look at the book one night, the strange symbols as familiar, and as meaningless as they were on the first day, and you know something has to change. You cannot solve this puzzle in Paris. The key is not here. You must leave the comfort of your home and become a pilgrim. The decision to leave Paris is not an easy one. It is your home, the only world you have ever known. But the Book of Abraham has become a silent, demanding presence in your life, and its puzzle cannot be solved within the familiar walls of your shop. You realize that the book's author, Abraham the Jew, holds the key. The text is not some lost universal language. It is likely a form of mystical Hebrew or a related Kabbalistic code. To decipher it, you need to find someone from that scattered and often persecuted community who might recognize the script or the symbols. And so, you decide to embark on a pilgrimage. You will travel to Spain. At this time, despite waves of persecution, Spain still has a significant Jewish population, including many learned scholars and mystics who have inherited the esoteric traditions of their ancestors. Your chosen destination is the famous pilgrimage route of Santiago de Compostela. Your cover story is perfect. You are a devout Christian undertaking a sacred journey to the shrine of St. James. It's a common enough sight, and no one will question your motives. You make your preparations. You entrust your shop and home to Perenelle. Her faith in you is absolute. She doesn't see a man in the grip of a mad obsession. She sees a husband on a holy quest. She helps you pack a small satchel with bread, dried meat, a water skin, and most importantly, carefully copied pages from the book. You don't dare take the original. Leaving it behind is a risk, but taking it on the dangerous roads of medieval Europe is a far greater one. The journey is arduous. You travel mostly on foot, joining groups of other pilgrims for safety. The roads are little more than muddy tracks, rife with bandits and beggars. At night, you sleep in crowded, flea-bitten pilgrim hostels, or more often, in the open air, with your satchel as a pillow. You are no longer a sheltered urbanite. You are a traveler, exposed to the elements and the harsh realities of the world. The clean, crisp air of the countryside is a welcome change from the ever-present stench of the tanneries. And open sewers of Paris, a smell you had become so used to, you barely noticed it anymore. Along the way, you never stop your work. In every town with a church, you seek out the local priests and monks, showing them your copied pages under the guise of seeking scholarly advice on an old prayer book. You describe the book's symbols to anyone who will listen, hoping for a spark of recognition. You get none. The journey becomes a walking meditation, a test of faith and endurance. You see firsthand the poverty and suffering of the common people, and also their simple, powerful faith. It reinforces your belief that your own quest is not for personal gain, but for a higher purpose. After months of walking, you finally cross the Pyrenees and enter Spain. The landscape changes, becoming drier, sunnier. The language shifts, the architecture takes on new forms. You feel you are getting closer. In the synagogues and small communities you pass through, you cautiously inquire after learned men, mystics, or interpreters of ancient texts. You are met with suspicion. The Jewish communities are wary of outsiders, and for good reason. The threat of forced conversions and violent pogroms is a constant shadow over their lives. An odd Frenchman asking about a mystical Jewish book is bound to raise alarms. Your quest seems to be failing. You have walked hundreds of miles, spent what little money you had, and are no closer to an answer. You complete your pilgrimage to Santiago de Compostela, praying at the shrine of St. James, your heart heavy with a mixture of piety and disappointment. You have fulfilled your public vow, but your private one remains unfulfilled. You begin the long journey home, a sense of defeat settling upon you. Historians still debate the true nature and extent of Flamel's journey. Some believe it was a much shorter trip, perhaps only to a community within France, and that the grand pilgrimage to Spain was an embellishment to make his story more epic. Others maintain that such a long and arduous journey was precisely what was needed to find the specific, obscure knowledge he sought. As you trudge along the road, your worn-out sandals flapping against the dusty ground, you feel less like an epic hero and more like a fool who chased a dream across a continent. You've been on the road for nearly 2 years. You miss Peril. You miss your quiet life. You are ready to give up. And that, of course, is when you meet him. You are in the city of Lyon, on your weary return journey, when you find yourself in a synagogue. You aren't seeking answers anymore, merely a moment of quiet contemplation away from the dusty road. An old man is there, a physician by trade, you learn, named Mr.LieFlow. He is a converso, a Jew who had converted to Christianity. A common and often forced occurrence in 15th century Spain, but he has not forgotten the knowledge of his ancestors. You fall into conversation, and with a familiar sigh of resignation, you mention your quest, describing the mysterious book and its author, Abraham the Jew. You expect the usual polite dismissal or blank stare. Instead, the maestro's eyes light up with a flicker of recognition. Abraham the Jew? He knows the name. He tells you that this Abraham was a real and widely known figure among the Jewish mystics, a great master of the Kabbalah, the ancient tradition of Jewish mysticism. He explains that Abraham's writings were considered so powerful and dangerous that they were sought by many, but understood by very few. They were not meant to be read literally, but as a complex series of allegories for the creation of the universe and the soul. A jolt of energy, of hope, runs through you, so potent it almost makes you dizzy. After all these years, after all this searching, you've found someone who knows. You eagerly show him the pages you have copied. He studies them intently, his brow furrowed in concentration. He confirms your suspicions. The script is indeed a form of Kabbalistic code, and the symbols are alchemical allegories viewed through a Jewish mystical lens. He cannot decipher it all. He says the full meaning is hidden behind multiple layers of symbolism, but he can give you the foundational principles. He can teach you the basic grammar of this secret language. He agrees to travel with you back to France, excited by the prospect of seeing the original book, which he believes is a legendary, long-lost text known as the Esh Mizaref, or the Purifying Fire. The journey back is a complete transformation from your journey out. Where before you were lost, now you have a guide. Where before you saw only gibberish, now you begin to see meaning. Every day, as you walk, the maestro teaches you. He explains that the first stage of the great work, negredo or blackening, represented by the color black and symbols of death and decay, is not about rot, but about the dissolution of the old self, the breaking down of base matter to its primal essence. It's like a spiritual composting. He tells you that many would-be alchemists fail because they take the texts literally. A common alchemical instruction was to use the green lion. Many fools would go out and try to distill the essence of an actual lion. Or worse, use highly corrosive vitriol sulfuric acid, which was known as the green lion. The maestro explains it's an allegory for a specific raw, untamed metallic energy. It's a classic case of not reading the fine print. You feel like a student again, your mind expanding with every conversation. The world, which had seemed so mundane, is now alive with hidden meanings. You see the alchemical process in the rising of the sun, the blooming of a flower, the baking of bread. Your perspective has fundamentally shifted. This is the true secret you are seeking, not just a translation, but a new way of seeing. Sadly, your journey with the maestro is cut short. The elderly physician is not as hardy a traveler as you have become. By the time you reach Orleans, just south of Paris, he falls gravely ill. You tend to him as best you can, but the rigors of the journey have been too much. After a week of sickness, during which he imparts his final pieces of wisdom to you, Maestro Concus passes away. You are heartbroken. You have found your guide only to lose him. You arrange for his proper Christian burial. A strange and poignant end for a man who held the keys to Jewish mysticism. Historians still debate whether Maestro Concus was a single individual or a composite character representing several people. Flamel may have consulted on his journey. It's as possible he was a convenient narrative device to explain how a French Catholic scrivener suddenly gained a deep understanding of Kabbalah. But as you stand over his fresh grave, the loss feels painfully real. You are alone again, but you are not the same man who left Paris. You are returning home not with a complete translation, but with something far more valuable, the key to understanding. The work can now begin. You arrive back in Paris, a changed man. 2 years of travel have weathered your face and hardened your body, but your eyes hold a new light, a burning intensity that wasn't there before. Peril greets you with a quiet, knowing joy. She sees the transformation in you and understands that your long pilgrimage was a success. You waste no time. That very night, you retrieve the Book of Abraham from its hiding place. The copper cover seems to hum in your hands, welcoming you back. With the foundational knowledge given to you by Maestro Concus, you open its pages, and for the first time, the symbols do not mock you with their silence. They begin to speak. The work is slow and methodical. It is not a simple matter of substituting one letter for another. It is a process of deep meditation and interpretation. Each symbol has multiple meanings, a chemical substance, a planetary influence, a stage of spiritual development, a biblical allegory. You must hold all these meanings in your mind at once, looking for the connections, the resonances. It is less like translation and more like composing a symphony from a single, infinitely complex chord. Peril is your constant partner in this. While you focus on the philosophical and mystical interpretations, she, with her practical and grounded mind, helps with the physical experiments. You set up a small laboratory in your cellar, a place of secrets beneath the bustling city. Your Athenor, the alchemical furnace, is a far cry from the grand contraptions you saw in the books. Diagrams. It is a simple but effective oven, built by your own hands, designed to maintain a constant, gentle heat for weeks or even months at a time. The slow, steady cooking that the great work requires. You begin to perform the initial operations, described in the book. The first stage, nigredo, the blackening, is a process of putrefaction. You take the prima materia, the base matter, the identity of which is one of alchemy's greatest secrets, though you believe you have deciphered it to be a common, overlooked mineral, and seal it in a glass vessel, known as the philosopher's egg. You place the egg in the gentle heat of the Athenor. The book says to wait, and so you wait. Days turn into weeks. You and Perenelle take turns watching the furnace, ensuring the fire never dies out. It's the ultimate slow cooker recipe. The substance inside the egg slowly darkens, turning from gray to a deep, oily black. A foul smell, the stench of the grave, fills your cellar. This, according to the text, is a good sign. It is the death of the old farm, a necessary decay, before rebirth can occur. While you wait for the physical process to unfold, you continue to work on the text. You learn that one of the most common materials in alchemical texts, mercury, was often not the element we know today. The name could refer to a philosophical Mercury, the life spirit within a metal. It's this kind of semantic trap that foils most amateurs. Many an alchemist in history met a grim end from mercury poisoning, having taken the texts far too literally. You, guided by Abraham's coded wisdom, understand the difference. You are not just a chemist. You are a philosopher of matter. After months of patient heating, the black mass in your philosopher's egg begins to change. A white layer, like frost, appears on its surface. This is the albedo, the whitening. It is the second stage, a symbol of purification and resurrection. The foul smell recedes, replaced by a clean, aromatic scent. You and Perenelle watch, transfixed, as the colors shift and bloom within the glass, a slow, silent miracle. Historians still debate what, exactly, Flammel and other alchemists were actually doing in their labs. Modern chemists suggest they were, likely performing early chemical experiments, perhaps discovering metallic alloys, acids, or phosphorescent compounds through trial and error, then interpreting their results through a mystical framework. For you, it is nothing less than the sacred art of creation, guided by the hand of God through Abraham's text. You feel a thrill of discovery, a sense of being on the cusp of something monumental. After more than 2 decades of searching and striving, the great work is finally, truly underway. The path is clear. The instructions are laid out before you. All that is left is to follow them to their glorious conclusion. The year is 1382. It has been nearly 3 years since your return from Spain. 3 years of patient, meticulous work in your hidden cellar laboratory. The process of the great work unfolds in stages, each with its own color, its own symbolic meaning, a slow-motion rainbow blooming inside your hermetically sealed glass vessel. After the albedo, the pure whiteness that washed over the decaying black matter, comes the citrinitas, a yellowing. This stage, often omitted in later alchemical texts, represents the dawning of the sun, the infusion of golden solar energy into the purified matter. You watch as the white substance in your philosopher's egg slowly takes on a saffron hue, like the sky at sunrise. The process is maddeningly slow. You can't rush it. You can't force it. The heat of the athanor must be as gentle and constant as a mother's love, a concept the book refers to as the fire of the first degree. It's a delicate balance. Too much heat will scorch the work. Too little, and it will stagnate. You and Perenelle maintain your vigil, a silent, devoted partnership. As the physical work progresses, so does your understanding. You realize the alchemical texts are not just recipes, but also manuals for personal transformation. The putrefaction of the Negredo was your own period of despair and searching. The purification of the albedo was the clarity you gained from Maestro Conscious. Now, in the citrinitas, you feel a dawning of true enlightenment, a sense of connection to the divine architecture of the universe. It's a profoundly spiritual experience. You are not just manipulating minerals in a flask. You are participating in the cosmic drama of creation. You've become so attuned to the work that you can almost feel the shifts in the substance before you see them. It's a level of intuition that borders on the psychic. Or maybe you've just been staring at a glass jar in a dark basement for too long. Finally, the last stage begins. the rubedo, the reddening. The yellow substance begins to deepen, shifting through shades of orange and saffron until it achieves a brilliant ruby red color. The text describes this as the marriage of the Sun King and the Moon Queen, the final union of opposites, the birth of the perfect being. The substance in your flask transforms from a dry powder into a heavy, reddish, wax-like material. It is beautiful, mesmerizing, and it seems to glow with a faint inner light. According to the Book of Abraham, this is it. This is the Philosopher's Stone in its first, unmultiplied form. It is a moment of profound triumph, the culmination of 24 years of your life. You and Perenelle gaze at the glowing red substance, your hearts filled with a quiet, overwhelming awe. You have done it. You have succeeded where countless others have failed. According to your own writings, the date is January 17th, 1382. Around 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you perform the first projection. Your hands tremble slightly as you take a tiny piece of the red stone, no bigger than a grain of wheat. You wrap it in wax to control the reaction and drop it into a crucible containing half a pound of molten lead. The book says the projection should be done under the influence of Mercury, so you have waited for the astrologically opportune moment. As the wax pellet hits the bubbling gray liquid, there is a soft hiss. The surface of the molten metal roils, and a reddish vapor briefly rises from the crucible, and then it settles. The dull, lifeless gray of the lead is gone. In its place is a shimmering, brilliant, unmistakable yellow. It is gold, pure, perfect gold. A fact that is often overlooked in a legend is the scale of this first experiment. It was a tiny, cautious trial, not a grand spectacle. You were a scientist, not a stage magician. You let the crucible cool, your heart hammering against your ribs. You remove the ingot. It is heavier than the lead was. It is soft, malleable. You test it. You take it to a goldsmith, claiming you found an old family heirloom. He examines it, tests its purity with acid, and declares it to be of a finer quality than any gold he has ever seen. You return to your shop, the small, heavy ingot a secret warmth in your pocket. You have done the impossible. You hold in your hands the proof that the ancient art is real. Historians still debate the nature of this transmutation. Skeptics suggest you may have simply discovered a sophisticated method for gold plating, or perhaps a clever alloy that mimicked gold's properties, fooling the less advanced assaying techniques of the day. But for you, there is no doubt. You have unlocked the first secret of the Philosopher's Stone, the power of transmutation. And if this first power is real, then the other, greater promise must be real too. The promise of health, of rejuvenation, of life. The successful transmutation of lead into gold changes everything, and yet, on the surface, it changes nothing. You and Perenelle do not suddenly start living a life of lavish luxury. You do not buy a castle or adorn yourselves in silks and jewels. That was never the point. The gold is merely proof of the principle, a stepping stone to the true purpose of the great work, the perfection of life itself. The Book of Abraham explains that the stone's power can be multiplied by dissolving the red stone in a special solvent. Another secret you deciphered from the text, and repeating the final stages of the process, you can increase its potency exponentially. Your first tiny grain could only transmute half a pound of lead. A multiplied stone could transmute thousands of pounds, far more than you would ever need. You perform this multiplication twice, each time creating a more powerful version of the stone. With a small but steady supply of perfect gold, your financial worries are over. But you use this newfound wealth with extreme caution and discretion. You continue to live in your modest home, to run your bookshop. Any sudden displays of wealth would attract unwanted attention from the king, the church, and every thief in Paris. Instead, you begin a quiet, strategic campaign of philanthropy. You know the poverty and hardship of your city firsthand. You and Peril, who having been widowed once before, was a savvy manager of property and finances, begin to fund the construction of hospitals, chapels, and shelters for the poor. You commission religious artwork for churches, providing work for local artisans. You establish low-cost housing for the destitute. Your charity is extensive, but you are careful to make it seem like the result of a lifetime of frugal living and shrewd, but perfectly normal business dealings. You become known as a generous and pious man, but no one suspects the supernatural origin of your fortune. Your true focus, however, is on the stone's other legendary property, the Elixir of Life. The book describes how to use the stone to create a potable solution, a medicine of unparalleled power. It is not, as the myths would later claim, a drink that grants instant, unending immortality. That is a crude fantasy. The elixir is described as a perfect medicine, a universal panacea that can cure any disease, restore youth and vigor, and extend life far beyond its normal span by perfecting the body's functions. It works by bringing the humors of the body into perfect balance, the same way the stone brings the humors of a base metal into the perfection of gold. One little-known aspect of this is that the elixir was said to taste terrible. The perfect medicine was apparently not perfect in the flavor department. Given some of the medical treatments of the day, like applying crocodile dung as a sunscreen or using bloodletting for a common cold, a bad-tasting drink probably seemed like a pretty good deal. You and Peril, both now entering old age, begin to take minute, carefully measured doses of the elixir. The effects are not dramatic or instantaneous. It is a gentle, slow-working restoration. The aches in your joints begin to fade. Your eyesight seems to sharpen. A vitality you haven't felt in decades returns to you. You are not becoming young. Again in appearance, your hair is still gray. The lines are still on your face, but you feel a profound sense of wellness, of your body's inner machinery being tuned and perfected. You are living proof of the second promise of the stone. You have transcended the normal limitations of human frailty. You have wealth beyond measure and health that defies age. You have achieved the twin goals that have obsessed dreamers and schemers for centuries. And you have done it all in secret, living a quiet, unassuming life in the heart of Paris. Historians still debate the source of Flamel's well-documented wealth and philanthropy, while the official story points to successful real estate investments and his wife's inheritance. The sheer scale of his charitable works in his later years has led many to question if there wasn't some other undisclosed source of income. For you, the answer is simple. It is the gift of the stone, a gift you are, determined to use for good, not for glory. You have everything a person could want, and your greatest challenge now is to live with it wisely. Life settles into a new, extraordinary rhythm. To the outside world, you are Nicholas Flamel, the kindly, elderly scrivener, and his devout wife, Peril. You are respected members of your community, known for your piety and your astonishing generosity. No one sees the Athanor that still burns with a gentle, eternal heat in your cellar. No one knows that the simple wine you drink with your supper is sometimes infused with a single, life-altering drop of the golden elixir. You have become the master of a double life, and the secret is a constant humming presence beneath the placid surface of your existence. You continue your studies, but your focus shifts. You are no longer just deciphering the Book of Abraham. You are adding to it. You begin to write your own treatise, Le Livre des Figures Hieroglyphiques, the Book of Hieroglyphic Figures, which explains your journey and the secrets you have unlocked. You write it in the same allegorical, coded language as the original, ensuring that only a true seeker, one who is patient and pure of heart, could ever understand it. You also engage in a subtle, dangerous game. The world of alchemy is full of charlatans and gold-crazed fools. You occasionally leak false formulas and red herrings into the intellectual circles of Paris. It's your way of protecting the true art, of sending the greedy and unworthy on wild goose chases. One of your favorite tricks is to hint that the secret ingredient is something impossibly rare or disgusting, like the powdered horn of a unicorn or the tears of a condemned man. It's a bit of a mean-spirited prank, but it keeps the riffraff busy and away from the real work. You know the destructive power of greed, and you are determined that the stone should never fall into the hands of those who would use it for power or conquest. Your real legacy, you decide, will not be the gold, but the good you do with it. You and Peril work as a team, identifying needs in the city. You fund the repair of the Cemetery of the Innocents, a vast and overcrowded burial ground, building a beautiful arcade along one of its walls. This very real, historically verifiable structure, the Flammel Ossuary, was decorated with sculptures depicting your alchemical journey in coded symbols, a secret hiding in plain sight. You carve your initials, an F, on the churches and hospitals you endow, a quiet testament to your work. But you also include symbols from your book, the serpent, the sun, the angel. For the common person, they are simple religious decorations. For the initiated, they are a map, a confirmation that the great secret is real and that its master resides, or once resided, in this city. You are building a legend in stone and mortar, one that will outlast you. Or will it? The elixir works, but it does not make you immune to the passage of time. You and Peril are healthy. Yes, but you are still living in a world that notices when people don't seem to age or die as they should. The greatest threat to your secret is not a thief or a king, but simple human observation. Your neighbors and acquaintances are growing old and passing away. Their children are growing up, having children of their own. And you and Peril, you remain. A healthy, vigorous 60 can be explained. A spry 70, perhaps. But what happens when you reach what should be your 90s or your hundreds, and you still look like a well-preserved sexagenarian? The problem of immortality, you realize, is not a biological one, but a social one. You cannot stay in one place forever. Sooner or later, someone will notice. The whispers would begin, then the accusations. Witchcraft, diabolism. The Inquisition would come knocking, and not even the Philosopher's Stone could protect you from that. Historians still debate how Flammel and his wife managed to live out their lives without raising suspicion. The most logical, though least romantic, explanation is that the elixir was a myth, and they simply died of old age, as records indicate. But the legend offers a different solution. As you contemplate this problem, a new, daunting phase of your life begins to take shape. You have achieved the great work. Now you must learn to live with its consequences. The quiet life you have, so carefully constructed, cannot last. The time is coming when you and Peril will have to disappear. The year is 1410. You are, by mortal reckoning, over 80 years old. Peril passed the same milestone a few years ago. By the standards of the 15th century, you are ancient. Life expectancy for a man of your station was, if he was lucky, somewhere in his 50s or 60s. You have outlived your friends, your colleagues, and most of your original neighbors. The Paris you knew as a young man is a distant memory, a city of ghosts. And yet, you and Peril are still here, in remarkably good health, thanks to the gentle ministrations of the elixir. The problem you foresaw years ago is now becoming acute. People are starting to talk. Not openly, not yet, but you see it. In their eyes a flicker of confusion, of suspicion. You hear it in the whispers of the market, the hushed tones of neighbors. How can the old bookseller and his wife be so durable? You look much the same as you did 20 years ago. It is unnatural. The time has come to enact the final phase of your plan. You must stage your own deaths. It is a grim and surreal task, but a necessary one to protect your secret and your future. You begin by carefully preparing your last will and testament. It is a public document, and you make it a testament to your piety and charity, leaving your remaining properties and wealth to the church and the poor. You commission a tomb for yourself and Peril in the Church of Saint Jacques d'Albaucherie. It is a magnificent work of art, covered in the now familiar coded symbols of your alchemical journey. A crowned king being slain, serpents, suns, and moons. To the world, it is a monument to a devout man's obsession with biblical allegory. To the initiated, it is your final signed confession that, in 1413, Peril dies. It is a carefully managed deception. A closed casket funeral, a public display of grief from you, a death certificate signed by a physician who owes you a great favor. In reality, you have smuggled her out of Paris to a secret, secluded property you prepared years ago in the countryside. For the next 5 years, you live as a widower. It is a lonely and difficult time, but the performance is crucial. You age yourself up, stooping your shoulders, walking with a cane you don't need, letting a tremor enter your voice. You must look the part of a grieving ancient man nearing the end of his days. A strange but true fact from this period is that professional mourners, or pleurants, were often hired for funerals of the wealthy to weep and wail, ensuring the deceased received a suitably sorrowful send-off. You, however, need no such. Actors, your grief at being separated from Peril, even temporarily, is all too real. Finally, in 1418, it is your turn. You fall ill. You take to your bed. You receive last rites from the parish priest. You bid farewell to your few remaining acquaintances. And then Nicholas Flamel, the humble scrivener of Paris, dies. Your body is laid in the tomb you prepared, next to the empty space reserved for your wife. The city of Paris mourns the loss of its great benefactor. Your story, it seems, has come to a noble and definitive end. But deep in the French countryside, two elderly but remarkably healthy figures meet under the cover of darkness. You and Peril are reunited. You have shed your old identities like a snake sheds its skin. You are free. You have your health, your secret, and each other. The world believes you are dead. Your new, unending life is about to begin. Historians still debate the authenticity of Flamel's tomb and the accounts of his death. While official records seem clear, the persistent rumors and the symbolic nature of the tomb have kept the question alive for centuries. Was it a real grave, or the most elaborate vanishing act in history? You, holding Peril's hand under a starry sky, know the answer. You are no longer Nicholas Flamel, the Parisian bookseller. You are a ghost, a legend, and you are ready for your next chapter. Your new life is one of quiet anonymity. You and Peril become wanderers, ghosts drifting through the tapestry of European history. You have learned the hard lesson of immortality. You can never stay in one place for too long. You adopt new names, new identities. You are a merchant from Flanders, a scholar from Geneva, a minor noble from a forgotten Italian principality. You move every decade or two before the unnatural lack of aging can draw attention. You have enough gold from your initial projections to last for centuries, and you use it to live comfortably, but never ostentatiously. Your greatest luxury is not wealth, but freedom. Freedom from the constraints of a single lifetime, a single identity. You watch the world change around you. The 15th century unfolds, a tapestry of war, plague, and burgeoning renaissance. You witness the end of the 100 Years' War between France and England, a conflict that had been the backdrop for your entire former life. You see the fall of Constantinople to the Ottoman Turks in 1453, an event that sends shockwaves through Christendom and floods Europe with refugee, Greek scholars and their precious ancient manuscripts. You are there, a silent observer in the crowd, when Gutenberg's printing press begins to churn out books, revolutionizing the spread of knowledge. For you, a man who spent his life copying texts by hand, this invention is a miracle and a marvel. It democratizes the word in a way you could never have imagined. Suddenly, the knowledge that was once the exclusive domain of the rich and the clergy is available to all. You wonder, with a mix of hope and trepidation, if your own coded book will one day find its way into print. Your travels take you across the continent. You spend time in the vibrant city-states of Italy, Florence, Venice, Rome, where the Renaissance is in full bloom. You walk the same streets as Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo, marveling at their genius. You listen to the revolutionary ideas of thinkers who are challenging the old dogmas of the church and laying the groundwork for a new age of science. You are a living bridge between the medieval world of faith and mysticism and the modern world of reason and inquiry. One of the peculiar dangers of your extended life is keeping up with the changing customs and fashions. In one decade, a pointed shoe called a croco is the height of fashion. In another, it's a wide, blunt-toed shoe. Forgetting such details could mark you as a bizarre outsider. It's like being a time traveler who has to constantly update their wardrobe to avoid sticking out. You become an expert in blending in being forgettable dot. You continue your alchemical studies, but they are no longer a desperate search. They are a calm, lifelong practice. You refine your understanding, delving deeper into the philosophical and spiritual dimensions of the art. The stone is not just a tool. It is a teacher. It has taught you patience, humility, and a profound respect for the delicate balance of the universe. You are not a god. You are a custodian of a sacred trust. Historians still debate whether the legend of Flamel's survival is just a myth that grew over time, or if there is any substance to it. Believers point to apocryphal sightings of Flamel and Peril throughout the centuries, reported in various esoteric texts. Skeptics argue these are just stories, wishful thinking for those who want to believe in the possibility of cheating death. You, of course, are too busy living to worry about the debate. You are in Prague, perhaps studying the work of the alchemists, in the court of Emperor Rudolph II, or maybe in the quiet libraries of Switzerland, reading the new, printed works of philosophy. You have all the time in the world, and you are content to watch the grand, slow drama of history unfold, a secret, smiling spectator in the front row. Centuries slide by like pages in a book. The 16th century arrives, bringing with it the Protestant Reformation, a cataclysm that splinters the Christian world you once knew. You watch as Europe is torn apart by religious wars, a brutal and bloody consequence of unshakable belief, a phenomenon you understand all too well. You see the rise of great empires, the Spanish conquistadors returning from the New World with ships laden with gold, a treasure acquired by conquest, not by the patient art of alchemy. It all seems so crude, so wasteful. You and Peril have learned that true wealth is not in gold, but in time and peace. You lived through the age of Shakespeare, the witch hunts, the scientific revolution of Galileo and Newton. Each era brings new wonders and new horrors. You are constantly learning, adapting, shedding old skins for new ones. In the 17th century, something remarkable happens. Your book, Les Livres des Figures Hiéroglyphiques, is published for the first time in Paris in 1612. Your secret, which you so carefully guarded, is now a public commodity, albeit one still wrapped in layers of allegory and code. The publication creates a sensation. The legend of Nicholas Flamel, the humble scrivener who discovered the philosopher's stone, is officially born. You become a posthumous celebrity. Alchemists and treasure hunters across Europe become obsessed with your story. They pore over your book, trying to crack its code. They search for your lost laboratory, for any hint of your secret. The most persistent rumor is that you didn't really die, that you and Peril are still alive, wandering the earth. It's a strange and unsettling experience to read about yourself as a figure of myth. It's like attending your own funeral, only the eulogy is being delivered by a conspiracy theorist. The most famous story to emerge from this period is that of a man named Paul Lucas, a traveler and antiquarian for King Louis XIV. In his travelogues, published in the early 18th century, Lucas recounts a bizarre encounter in Turkey. He claims to have met a dervish, a wise old philosopher, who spoke of his travels with a group of fellow sages. This dervish asserted that true philosophers possessed the stone and could prolong their lives for 1,000 years. When Lucas expressed skepticism, the dervish casually mentioned that he had recently spoken with a dear friend, a man named Nicholas-Flamel, who was very much alive and living in India with his wife. This story, a fascinating and completely unverifiable tidbit, cemented the myth of your survival in the public imagination. It was no longer a fringe belief. It was now recorded in a book in the king's own library. You and Peril, perhaps living at that time as quiet Dutch merchants or Italian art dealers, read these accounts with a mixture of amusement and alarm. The legend is growing, taking on a life of its own. It is becoming dangerous. The more famous your story becomes, the more people will be looking for you. The treasure hunters are the least of your worries. You are more concerned about the powerful kings and cardinals who would stop at nothing to get their hands on the stone. You realize that your greatest creation is not the elixir, but the legend itself. It is a powerful, uncontrollable force. Historians still debate the origin of the Flamel survival myth, often tracing it back to the 17th century publication of his book and these subsequent sensational accounts. They see it as a classic example of how a historical figure can be transformed into a cultural icon, a symbol of humanity's deepest desires for wealth and eternal life. You see it as a major security breach. The quiet anonymity you cherished for centuries is gone. You are now the most famous immortal in the world, and you have to find a way to disappear all over again, this time from your own legend. The fame of your legend becomes a prison. Everywhere you go, the name Nicholas-Flamel follows you, a ghostly echo from a life you left behind centuries ago. The story is now so well known that any wealthy, mysterious couple of a certain age automatically draws suspicion. You can no longer afford to be a quiet benefactor or a learned scholar. You must become even more inconspicuous, more deeply hidden. You and Peril retreat from the bustling centers of Europe, seeking refuge in more remote, forgotten corners of the world. Perhaps you spend a few decades in the Swiss Alps, or on a quiet Greek island, or even venture as far as the Ottoman Empire, where the mingling of cultures provides a perfect cover. Your relationship, forged in the fires of the Athenor and tempered over centuries, is the one constant in your ever-changing existence. You have seen empires rise and fall together. You have weathered plagues, wars, and revolutions. You have shared a secret that would have crushed a lesser bond. There is a depth to your love that mortal couples could never comprehend. You know each other's thoughts before they are spoken. You have long since exhausted every story, every memory from your original lives, and have built a vast shared history that belongs only to you. But even this extraordinary bond is not without its strains. The weight of eternity is heavy. You watch generations of humanity live and die, their brief, vibrant lives a stark contrast to your own unending existence. There is a profound loneliness in being a permanent observer, a sadness in knowing that any new friend you make is destined to wither and pass away while you remain. Sometimes you wonder if the elixir was a blessing or a curse. In 1789, the world changes again. The French Revolution erupts, a violent, chaotic storm that sweeps away the old order you were born into. The monarchy is overthrown, the aristocracy is executed, and the church is stripped of its power. The very foundations of your 14th century world are dismantled. The church of Saint Jacques de la Boucherie, where you built your tomb, is destroyed by the revolutionaries, all except for its tower. Your tomb, your final message to the world, is broken open. According to the legend that springs up around this event, the mob that desecrated the church, hungry for treasure, pried open your coffin. They expected to find jewels, gold, or perhaps the moldering bones of the famous alchemist. Instead, the legend claims they found it empty. This event, whether true or an embellishment, added the final explosive ingredient to your myth. The empty tomb was seen as the ultimate proof. Flamel had never been there. He had cheated death. A peculiar detail from this revolutionary period is the creation of a new calendar, with new months and a 10-day week, in an attempt to completely de-Christianize French society. It was a radical top-down effort to reshape time itself, and it was a spectacular failure. It reminds you of your own work, how some transformations are profound and lasting, while others are just temporary, unnatural impositions on a deeper order. You and Peril watch these events from a safe distance, your hearts heavy with a strange mix of emotions. You see the destruction of your past, the erasure of your physical legacy. But you also see the birth of new ideas: liberty, equality, fraternity, that will shape the future. Historians still debate the fate of Flamel's tomb. Most assume the bones were simply lost or discarded during the chaos of the church's demolition, a common fate for old graves during the Revolution. The story of the empty coffin is widely considered a romantic fiction. But for the believers, it is the gospel truth, the final piece of the puzzle. For you, it is a narrow escape. The physical evidence of your death is now gone, scattered to the winds. In a way, the revolution has set you free once more, erasing your tracks and allowing you to sink even deeper into the shadows of history. The 19th and 20th centuries are a blur of accelerating change. You, who were born into a world lit by fire and powered by muscle, now live in an age of steam, electricity, and the atom. The Industrial Revolution transforms the landscape, choking the air with coal smoke that reminds you, ironically, of the foul-smelling Negredo stage of your great work. You see the rise of nationalism, the horror of world wars fought with technology of unimaginable destructive power. The secrets of the universe are no longer pursued in dusty cellars with Athenors and alembics, but in gleaming laboratories with particle accelerators and electron microscopes. Science has replaced alchemy. The quest to transmute elements is no longer a mystical art, but a feat of nuclear physics. Men have learned to split the atom, unleashing a power far greater and more terrifying than anything you ever dreamed of. You and Peril find it harder and harder to remain hidden. The world is becoming smaller, more connected. The invention of photography is a particular menace. A simple photograph could capture your unchanging face, creating a permanent record that could expose you decades later. You become masters of evasion, avoiding cameras, official records, and any form of documentation. You live on the fringes, in cash economies, always ready to move on. Your identities become thinner, more transient. You are no longer building new lives, just temporary shelters from the storm of modernity. The legend of Nicholas Flamel, meanwhile, continues to thrive in the subcultures of the occult and esotericism. Your name is invoked by secret societies. Your book is reprinted in new editions. Your story is told and retold with ever more fantastic embellishments. A bizarre but persistent modern myth is that the real Book of Abraham the Jew is stored in a highly secure, secret library, perhaps in the Vatican or the secretive cabal like the Priory of Sion. People spend their lives chasing these phantoms. You are now a symbol, completely detached from the reality of the man you once were. You represent the ultimate fantasy, the mastery of life and death, the secret knowledge that lies just beyond the grasp of mainstream science. In the 20th century, your story gets its biggest boost yet. A young British author, J.K. Rowling, writes a series of books about a boy wizard. In her first book, Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, she makes you a central, though off-stage, character, a friend of the headmaster Albus Dumbledore, the only known maker of the stone, living a quiet, extended life with your wife, Peril. Suddenly, your name is known to millions of children and adults around the globe. You are no longer an obscure historical figure. You are a character in the most popular book series of all time. Your legend has achieved a form of commercial immortality you could never have predicted. It's the ultimate disguise. You are hiding. In the open, your story dismissed as children's fiction. Historians still debate the influence of historical alchemy on modern fantasy literature, and your case is perhaps the most prominent example. Your documented life, your book, and the legends surrounding you provided a perfect, ready-made backstory for a world of magic. You, a man who has lived through 6 centuries, find this development deeply ironic. You had spent your long life trying to hide from the world, only to end up as a household name. You and Peril might be living in a quiet apartment in Buenos Aires, or a small cottage in rural Canada, reading this new version of your life story. You see your name on the page, your life's work reduced to a plot device. Is it a trivialization of your sacred art? Or is it, in its own way, a continuation of the mystery? The story, like the stone itself, has been multiplied, projected into the minds of millions. Your secret is safer than ever, because now everyone thinks they know it, and they believe it's just a fairy tale. And so, here you are, the 21st century, a world of glowing screens, instant communication, and global networks. It is a world that has mapped the human genome. That sends probes to the farthest reaches of the solar system that carries the sun. Of all knowledge in a small device in its pocket. And yet, it is still a world that yearns for mystery, for magic, for a secret that can turn the lead of ordinary life into the gold of meaning. You and Peril are now impossibly old, more than 600 years of memories shared between you. You have found a quiet rhythm, a way to exist in this new hyper-documented world. You live a simple life, far from the centers of power and attention. You have learned that the greatest gift of the elixir is not the extension of life, but the depth of perspective it provides. You have seen so much beauty and so much folly. You have seen humanity at its most brilliant and its most cruel. And through it all, you have had each other. The Book of Abraham the Jew now sits on a simple wooden shelf, its copper binding worn smooth by the touch of centuries. The Athanor in your cellar or basement, as it's now called, is cold. The great work is done. You have no more need for transmutations or elixirs. The life you have is enough. The stone itself, the small, glowing red substance, is kept in a simple wooden box. It is the beginning and the end of your story, a tangible piece of a forgotten age of wonder. Sometimes you take it out and hold it in your palm. It feels warm, alive. It is a reminder of the young bookseller who had a strange dream, of the long journey, of the patient work, of the love that made it all possible. What will you do with it? Will you pass it on? Will you destroy it? Or will you simply keep it a secret between you, Peril, and God? The final disposition of the stone is the one secret you have never written down, the one mystery that will die with you, whenever that may be. A little-known fact about Flamel's actual writings is that they are deeply and sincerely pious. He never presents his work as a rebellion against God, but as a fulfillment of God's hidden potential within nature. His alchemy was a form of prayer. Your legacy is not the gold, which has long been spent on forgotten charities. It is not the legend, which has become a piece of popular fiction. Your true legacy is your long, quiet life with Peril, a life lived with purpose and love. It is the secret you kept not for power, but out of a sense of sacred duty. Historians will forever debate your story. Was he a brilliant alchemist or a clever fraud? A historical figure or a literary invention? Did he die in 1418, or is he still out there somewhere, watching us now? The debate itself has become your final act of concealment, the perfect white noise to cover your quiet existence. You have become a story told before bedtime, a whisper of magic in a world that claims to have outgrown it. And you are at peace with that dot. The evening sun streams through the window of your small, modern home. You look at Peril, her face, as familiar to you as your own soul, the lines etched by time only deepening the beauty you have cherished for over 6 centuries. She smiles, a silent communication that passes between you, a whole universe of shared experience in a single glance. Your journey is nearing its end, not an end of death, perhaps, but a final, gentle fading into the quiet embrace of eternity. You have lived long enough. You have seen enough. The story is complete. And now, as the light begins to fade outside your window, a deep and gentle quiet settles over you. The long, winding road of your many lives stretches out behind you, not as a heavy burden of memory, but as a soft path that has led you to this very moment of peace. The weight of the centuries seems to lift from your shoulders, dissolving like mist in the morning sun. The sharp edges of the world begin to soften, the clamor of history fading into a distant, gentle hum. There are no more secrets to keep, no more journeys to embark upon. There is only the calm, steady presence of the one you have loved through all of time, a quiet anchor in the endless river of existence. The last embers of the day glow warmly, and you feel a profound sense of completion, a sense that the great work of your life has finally, truly, reached its perfect end. And as the world outside slips into the deep velvet of the night, you close your eyes and you simply rest